Long before the rivers forgot their songs and the mountains bowed to time, there stood the ancient kingdom of Nuria, a realm where the sky itself was believed to be alive. The people of Nuria did not merely look upon the stars, they listened to them, spoke to them, and lived by their light. Each child born beneath the heavens was said to be guided by a single star, one that shimmered above them through every triumph and every sorrow. When a person died, their star dimmed, returning to the great river of night to be reborn in another age. In this land of radiant skies lived Amara, a woman whose spirit shone brighter than any lantern flame. She was 25, graceful and strong, with eyes that seemed to hold fragments of constellations. The villagers called her the daughter of light, for wherever she walked, peace followed. Children ran to her with laughter, elders blessed her with knowing smiles, and even the animals in the field seemed calmer when she passed. Amara's kindness was not born of weakness, it flowed from a quiet strength, the kind that came from understanding both joy and loss. Her father, Chief Okoro, was the heart of Nuria, a man of deep voice and steady judgment. For years he had ruled the kingdom with balance, honoring the old traditions of the stars. His late wife Abini had been the keeper of those traditions, a seer who read the sky as others read scrolls. When she died, the kingdom dimmed, and so did Okoro's laughter. For many seasons he mourned alone beneath the night sky, watching Amara grow into a mirror of her mother's light. But grief has a hunger of its own, and loneliness can whisper louder than wisdom. When the rains returned after 7 dry seasons, Okoro took a new wife, a woman named Zira who had arrived from the southern deserts. She came dressed in robes of deep indigo and silver dust, her beauty sharp as moonlight reflected on water. No one knew her lineage or the true reason for her arrival, but her charm was undeniable. Her words were honeyed, her laughter soft, yet behind her gaze flickered something cold and distant, as though her eyes had once looked into another world. From the first night Zira entered the royal compound, the air seemed to change. The flames in the lamps burned lower, and the night breeze carried whispers through the palms. The elders muttered that her shadow moved slower than her steps. Some said she was touched by the eclipse spirits, those who dwelled in the moments when the sun and moon devoured each other. Amara welcomed her stepmother with warmth, offering bracelets and flowers as signs of peace. But Zira only smiled, her lips curving in a way that held no true kindness. She studied Amara's face with an unreadable expression, as if measuring the distance between light and darkness. That same night, as Amara stood beneath the open sky, she lifted her eyes to her guiding star, a brilliant silver spark that had always comforted her since childhood. Yet something was wrong. The star that once shimmered fiercely now flickered faintly as though struggling to breathe. The sky around it dimmed, and a tremor of cold passed through Amara's heart. She whispered a prayer her mother had taught her, "Light above me, light within me, do not leave me in the shadow." But the heavens remained silent. Only the rustle of the wind answered, carrying the faint scent of smoke from Zira's chamber. In the heart of Nuria, where faith in the stars had guided generations, a new silence began to spread, one that tasted like ash and sorrow. And above them all, Amara's star trembled, its glow fading against the endless night, as if the sky itself sensed the coming of darkness. In the weeks that followed Zira's arrival, the rhythm of life in Nuria began to shift like sand beneath a river. What had once been a home filled with music and laughter now echoed with silence and suspicion. The villagers still adored Amara, and her presence continued to light the market square, but within the palace walls, another light had begun to burn, cold, secret, and envious. Zira watched Amara constantly, her gaze sharp as the edge of a hidden blade. The stepmother's jealousy grew like an untended fire, feeding on every smile Amara received and every word of praise that reached her ears. When Chief Okoro laughed with his daughter at the dinner table, Zira's smile would stiffen. When Amara offered prayers at dawn and the first light touched her face, Zira would turn away, her hands clenching so tightly that her rings cut into her skin. She began whispering to Okoro in the quiet hours of the night. "Your daughter is too loved by the people," she would say, her tone a mix of concern and poison. "They bow to her more than they bow to their chief. Such adoration is dangerous." Okoro would sigh and shake his head. "Amara means no harm. The people see her mother's light in her." But Zira was patient. "Light can blind as easily as it guides, my husband. Do you not wonder why her star has dimmed? Perhaps the spirits no longer favor her. Perhaps she has sought power in forbidden ways." Her words fell like drops of venom, slow, silent, and deadly. Over time they began to stain Okoro's peace. He started to notice strange things that were not strange at all. How animals gathered around Amara, how the wind seemed to calm when she spoke, how the villagers' faces softened when they saw her. Once signs of grace, they now appeared to him as omens. Zira's manipulations deepened. She told stories of witches who stole light from the heavens, of daughters who turned against their fathers. "Love her, yes," she would say, brushing Okoro's shoulder with feigned tenderness. "But beware the unseen powers that dwell in beauty." By day, Zira played the perfect queen, weaving garlands for the festival, feeding the poor, and singing old desert songs that made even the guards smile. But when night came, her true face returned. She would leave her chamber wrapped in black cloth and walk beyond the village, to the edge of the sacred river where the moon reflected like a coin on dark water. There, she drew circles in the sand, scattered ashes mixed with oil, and whispered words the wind refused to carry. The guards who saw her did not speak of it, they were too afraid. The elders prayed, hoping the darkness she summoned would not find a home in their land. But Amara felt it already. Her dreams grew heavy. She would awaken before dawn, drenched in sweat, her breath shallow. In those dreams she stood beneath the stars, but their light was fractured, trembling as though something was feeding on them. Voices drifted down, soft at first, then louder. "Amara. Amara?" The tone was neither kind nor cruel, only hollow like echoes from a deep well. One night she dreamed of her mother. Ebony stood upon a field of stars, her face calm but her eyes filled with warning. "Child, beware the shadow that wears silk," she said, her voice carried on the wind. "The stars will test you and only truth will lead you home." Amara woke gasping, the scent of ashes heavy in her room. When she looked out the window, she saw faint trails of dark powder leading toward the royal gardens. At their end stood a lone figure, Zira, raising her hands to the sky as if calling something unseen. The air around her shimmered, and for a moment, Amara thought she saw eyes within the darkness staring back at her. The next morning, Chief Okoro's warmth was gone. When Amara greeted him, he nodded but did not smile. He spoke of duties, of caution, of keeping balance between faith and reason. His words felt distant, like echoes of a man she once knew. Amara tried to reach him, but each attempt was like speaking through fog. Zira had built a wall of whispers between them, one that even love struggled to break. In the heart of Nuria, the seeds of jealousy had taken root, and in the quiet of the night, the stars above trembled, dimming further, as if mourning what was yet to come. The festival of the stars arrived with the promise of renewal. It was the holiest night in Nuria, when every family gathered under the open heavens to thank their guiding star and ask for blessings for the year ahead. The city was alive with color. Drums echoed through the valley, torches painted golden circles in the dark, and children ran laughing through the streets with palm lanterns shaped like constellations. Amara walked among them with quiet grace, her white robe flowing like a beam of moonlight. Though her heart still ached from her father's distance, she had promised herself to greet the night with faith. The festival had been her mother's favorite, and Amara could not bear to let the tradition die. Zira, draped in a gown of deep crimson silk, watched her from the palace balcony. The sight of the villagers bowing to Amara as she passed twisted something sharp inside her. She smiled, but her eyes glittered with malice. That night she had prepared a gift, a necklace forged not by hands of goldsmiths, but by her own in secret ritual. It was made of dark stones that shimmered faintly, their surfaces etched with symbols no one in Nuria would dare to write. When Amara entered the royal chamber to prepare for the ceremony, Zira greeted her with false warmth. "My daughter," she said, her voice soft and honeyed, "you honor your mother's memory tonight. I have something that once belonged to her." Amara paused, her eyes widening. "To my mother?" "Yes," Zira lied smoothly, lifting the necklace from a silk cloth. "Ebony wore it when she blessed the stars for the last time. It will guide you tonight." Amara's heart trembled at the mention of her mother. Without suspicion, she bowed her head and allowed Zira to clasp the cold stones around her neck. The moment it touched her skin, a chill ran through her body, but she forced a smile. "Thank you, mother," she whispered. The ceremony began at the heart of the kingdom, where a great stone circle had been built generations ago, a place said to touch the edge of heaven. The villagers filled the field, singing old songs as the chief and his family stepped onto the sacred platform. Amara felt the weight of the necklace against her collarbone, heavy and strange, but she ignored the unease. As the drums fell silent, Chief Okoro raised his hands to the sky. "May the stars hear us," he proclaimed. "May their light never fade." One by one the people knelt, their voices rising in harmony. The sky responded, thousands of stars glittered above, pulsing softly in rhythm with the prayers. But then, as Amara lifted her gaze to find her guiding star, something inside the necklace stirred. The stones grew hot, then burned with a deep violet flame. A scream escaped her lips as the light around her twisted. The stars above flickered, dimmed, and vanished into a suffocating black. The moon disappeared. The drums stopped. Amara fell to her knees, gasping. The cursed necklace glowed like molten fire, its symbols alive with dark energy. The villagers shouted in terror. Some cried that she had angered the heavens, others that she had stolen their light. Zira's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "She has betrayed us," she cried, pointing at Amara. "She has practiced forbidden star magic. See how the heavens reject her." Okoro rushed to his daughter's side, but the spell Zira had woven around his mind tightened. The scent of her incense still lingered on his robe, clouding his judgment. He hesitated as Amara reached for him, her eyes filled with pleading. "Father, please?" But Zira's word struck first. "If we do not cleanse the kingdom, the stars will never return." Fear spread like wildfire. The people began to chant, "Cleanse the curse! Cleanse the curse!" Okoro's hands trembled. He turned his gaze from his daughter's tear-streaked face to the darkened sky. At last his voice broke. "Take her," he said hoarsely. "Take her to the cave of darkness. Let the spirits judge her." Amara screamed, but the guards seized her arms. Zira watched, her expression serene, though her heart raced with triumph. As they dragged Amara through the crowd, the torches dimmed one by one. The necklace shattered, scattering fragments like dying stars. And above Nuria the sky remained black, silent, empty, and endless, as the daughter of light was led into the wilderness, toward the mouth of a cave that swallowed all who entered. When Amara awoke, she could not tell whether her eyes were open or closed. The world around her was pure black, so thick and heavy it felt alive. The air was cold and damp, filled with the faint scent of stone and old sorrow. For a moment she did not know where she was, only that her body ached and her wrists were raw where the guards had bound her. Then memory crashed upon her like a wave. The festival, the cursed necklace, her father's voice, the darkness swallowing the sky. She sat up slowly, trembling. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice breaking the silence, but the cave swallowed her words as though hungry. No echo returned. She reached out with her hands and found only cold rock. Crawling forward, she touched the uneven walls, slick with moisture, and felt a sharp edge cut her palm. She pulled back with a cry. Her blood glimmered faintly before vanishing into the dark, as if the stone itself had drunk it. Panic rose inside her chest. She tried to stand, stumbled, and fell hard onto the rough ground. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. For the first time in her life she felt truly alone, not the loneliness of an empty room, but a vast ancient solitude that seemed to stretch beyond the limits of time. Then came the whispers. At first they were soft, distant murmurs, like wind stirring through dry leaves. Amara froze, straining to listen. The sounds grew clearer, fragments of words, names, sighs of grief. She turned in every direction, but there was no source, no shape, no breath of movement. Only the unseen voices weaving through the dark. "Why have you come?" one voice asked, hollow and low. "She bears the light," murmured another. "She was cast as we were cast." Amara's heart pounded. "Who are you?" she cried. "Please, help me." The cave seemed to tremble with laughter, not cruel but sorrowful, echoing from unseen depths. "We are those who entered and never left," they whispered. "The forgotten ones. The condemned. The lost." Amara fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face though she could not see them. "I don't belong here," she sobbed. "I did nothing wrong. Please, I only want to go home." But home was far away, and the silence that followed was colder than before. She lifted her face upward, though there was no sky to see. "Please," she whispered to the heavens that had abandoned her, "my star, my mother's light, don't leave me in this darkness." Her voice cracked, but still she prayed, her words trembling through the black. "If I have sinned, forgive me. If I am lost, find me. If I am to die here, let me at least see the stars one last time." At first there was nothing. Only her ragged breathing and the endless dark. Then a flicker. Faint as a candle spark, it appeared before her eyes. Amara gasped. Another flicker followed, and another, until tiny motes of light shimmered on the cave walls. Slowly the glimmers grew brighter, forming swirling patterns of silver dust. She blinked in disbelief as the walls came alive with constellations, stars etched in glowing dust that pulsed like living hearts. She reached out to touch one, and the moment her fingers brushed the light, it spread like water, tracing lines and curves across the stone. The constellations began to shift, their shapes transforming, weaving into something familiar. A face. Her breath caught in her throat. It was the face of her mother, Ebony, soft, radiant and kind, her features carved in pure starlight. Her eyes shone with the same warmth Amara had known as a child, the same eyes that once read the heavens for truth. "Mother?" Amara whispered, trembling. "Is it truly you?" The starlit face smiled, though no lips moved. The voice that answered came not from the walls, but from within her very soul. "Child of light," it whispered, gentle as a song, "they buried you in darkness, but you were born from the stars." Amara's tears turned to light as they fell. The fear in her heart began to ease, replaced by something new, not hope, not yet, but remembrance. She was her mother's daughter. The stars had always been her guardians. The glowing dust swirled again, forming a path deeper into the cave, a ribbon of shimmering light that pulsed with quiet invitation. Amara rose slowly, her hand pressed over her heart, where warmth now bloomed like dawn. Somewhere in the unseen distance, the spirits whispered once more, softer now, almost reverent. "Follow the stars, daughter of light. Your story is not yet ended." And with that, Amara stepped forward into the heart of the darkness, the faint trail of constellations leading her toward the unknown. The faint glow that had begun in the walls now pulsed with a rhythm like breathing. Amara stood still, her heart racing in sync with the light. The deeper she went, the air thickened, not with fear but with the sense of being watched, not by eyes of flesh but by something vast, ancient, and aware. Her bare feet brushed against the cold stone floor, which began to shimmer faintly under her touch, tracing a winding trail that led further into the abyss. From the darkness ahead came a soft hum, like 1,000 voices singing beneath their breath. As Amara stepped forward, she found herself surrounded by figures made of starlight, translucent, radiant, and shifting in color like water reflecting constellations. Their faces were human yet celestial, bearing calm expressions that carried both sorrow and wisdom. One of them, taller than the rest, spoke with a voice that vibrated through the stone. "Child of dust and flame," it said, "you walk the path of the forgotten skies." Amara fell to her knees, both terrified and awestruck. "Who are you?" she whispered. The being extended a hand made of light, and when it touched her, visions flooded her mind, images of the world above when it was young, when stars were worshipped as living gods and mortals danced beneath their radiance. "We are the spirits of the star path," it replied. "We were the first to guide humanity. But they turned away from the heavens, built kingdoms from greed, and cast our light into shadow." Another spirit stepped forward, smaller, with eyes like twin moons. "The Mother of Stars has not forgotten," it said. "She has chosen you, Amara, as her vessel of remembrance and vengeance. You carry within you the blood of the first stargazers, those who spoke the language of the constellations." Amara trembled. "Why me? I'm only a girl betrayed and cast away. My life is broken, my father bewitched, my name cursed." The taller spirit smiled faintly. "And yet you still walk. You still look up. That is why the heavens see you." The cave began to change around her. The glowing dust lifted into the air, spinning in a spiral that formed a vast archway made of living constellations. Each star within it burned with the memory of a life, a sacrifice, a truth long buried. To reclaim what was taken, the spirit said, "You must walk the path of the dead sky." Amara stepped closer, feeling heat and cold at once. "What lies beyond?" she asked. "Yourself," the spirit replied, "and all that you have forgotten." With a deep breath, she crossed through the archway. Instantly, the cave around her dissolved into darkness, and she stood in a vast expanse of shifting stars, an endless void where memories took form. She saw herself as a child, holding her mother's hand under a bright night sky, laughing as they traced constellations together. Then the scene twisted, her mother's death, her stepmother's cold smile, her father's fading warmth. Each step she took along the glowing path revealed another memory. The necklace Zira gave her, the laughter of the villagers as she fell, the cold grip of the guards dragging her away. Every sorrow, every betrayal unfolded before her eyes, and yet, instead of breaking her, it steeled her heart. Finally, the light led her to a chamber, silent, circular, and filled with a pool of still water that mirrored the night sky perfectly. When she looked into it, she saw not her reflection but a figure of radiant fire, a woman cloaked in constellations, eyes blazing like galaxies. "Mother of Stars," Amara whispered, her voice trembling. The figure in the water nodded slowly. "Your pain has reached the heavens, child. What was done in darkness shall be answered by light." Take what sleeps within you and rise. For your vengeance is not yours alone, it is written among the stars. The water rippled, and a beam of light shot upward, piercing the roof of the cave. The constellations above flared to life, forming a bridge of stars that reached from the darkness toward dawn. Amara stepped closer, her body glowing faintly, her tears no longer of sorrow but of awakening. And as she touched the edge of the pool, the stars answered her heartbeat. One pulse, one vow, and the path of the dead sky began to open. The pool shimmered before Amara, a mirror of eternity that reflected not her face, but the infinite dance of the cosmos. The stars swirled in its depths, whispering secrets of creation and destruction, of endings that became beginnings. Drawn by a power older than fear, Amara stepped forward. The moment her foot touched the surface, the water rippled not outward but upward, wrapping around her like liquid light. She closed her eyes and let go. The cold was immediate, then gone. It was not water that embraced her now, but memory, energy, and silence. She felt her body dissolve, the boundaries of flesh breaking apart until she was nothing but thought and light drifting in a sea of stars. The darkness that once frightened her was gone. Now it was alive with warmth. The voices of the ancient constellations hummed around her, speaking in tones her heart could finally understand. You are no longer of earth, child, a voice sang, the same voice that had guided her through the cave. You are of the sky. You are what they tried to bury. Amara felt a pull, a pulse, as if her essence were being remade. Her veins filled with light, her heartbeat echoed like distant thunder, and from within her chest, a warmth began to bloom, soft, radiant, and pure. She gasped, and the stars responded, flaring brighter. Then, slowly her body began to reform, not as it was but renewed, remade, reborn. When she emerged from the pool, the air trembled around her. Droplets of starlight rolled from her skin, fading before they touched the ground. Her body was whole again, yet different. Her dark skin now shimmered faintly with constellations, as though the heavens had written themselves upon her. Her hair glowed with faint silver strands, and when she breathed, the air itself seemed to glow. She looked down and gasped. The cursed necklace that had once burned her flesh was gone, its ashes swirling into the pool and vanishing like smoke in the night. In its place, upon her chest, shone a mark, a single radiant star that pulsed with every heartbeat. It was neither a wound nor an ornament, it was alive, guiding her, binding her to the heavens above. The curse is undone, whispered one of the spirits as they appeared around her, their forms softer now, reverent. What once imprisoned you has become your crown. Amara lifted her gaze to the cavern ceiling, where the constellations she had followed now shone in full glory. I was cast into darkness to be forgotten, she said, her voice low, trembling with both sorrow and newfound strength. But the stars remembered me. They saw. They waited. Her eyes hardened. I will return, not to beg, not to plead, but to make them see the truth they buried. The stars will judge those who wronged me. The tallest of the luminous beings stepped forward, holding something in its radiant hands. From the light emerged a blade, slender, curved, and gleaming as though it were forged from pure moonlight. The air around it hummed, whispering truths in 1,000 languages. The blade of truth, said the spirit, forged when the first lie was spoken. It can cut through illusion, pierce deceit, and reveal what hides in shadow. It is both weapon and mirror, it will not lie for you, nor protect you if your heart turns false. Amara reached for it. The moment her fingers touched the hilt, the blade flared, and the mark on her chest responded in kind, star answering star. For an instant, the entire cavern lit up like a newborn galaxy. She felt its weight, not heavy but full of purpose. The spirits began to fade, their duty complete. Go, daughter of the stars, they said in unison. Your path awaits under a new moon. The ground beneath Amara trembled, and the walls of the cave split open with a sound like thunder cracking across eternity. A flood of cold wind rushed in, carrying with it the scent of night air and freedom. She stepped toward the opening, her blade gleaming in hand. Above, the world had changed. The sky was bare of light, no stars, no moon, as if the heavens themselves were waiting for her to rise. And yet, as she stepped into the night, one star flickered back to life. Then another. And another. Amara lifted her face to the sky, the faint glow of her skin blending with the growing constellation above. The stars had not abandoned her, they had prepared the world for her return. With her first step onto the earth again, the cave sealed behind her, leaving only the wind and the whisper of destiny. The daughter of the stars walked beneath the new moon, reborn, armed and unafraid. The path back to Nuria stretched beneath a sky stripped of its jewels. No stars watched, no moon guided, only a void heavy and endless. Amara walked barefoot across the quiet earth, her steps leaving faint trails of shimmering dust that vanished as quickly as they appeared. She had journeyed from the depths of the cave of darkness, no longer the woman who had been betrayed, but something otherworldly, a being caught between heaven and soil. When she reached the borders of her homeland, the once green fields lay wasted. The rivers ran thin, their waters dull and lifeless. Smoke curled from the huts that remained standing, and the drums that once sang through the night had long been silenced. It was as if the entire kingdom had forgotten how to breathe. Hidden beneath a simple brown cloak, Amara entered the village. None recognized her. To them, she was just another wanderer, one of the countless souls broken by famine and fear. Yet as she passed, people felt a strange calm, like the hush before dawn. Children, hollow-eyed and weak, followed her with small steps. The elders whispered prayers under their breath, for though they did not know her face, something about her presence stirred their old faith in the stars. She soon learned how deeply Zira's darkness had rooted itself. Since Amara's banishment, Zira had become more than just Chief Okoro's wife, she was now his shadow and voice. Okoro, once strong and wise, had grown frail and hollow-eyed, as if the life had been drained from his soul. Zira ruled in his name, holding rituals beneath the eclipsed sky, promising to restore the kingdom's light while secretly feeding off its despair. No stars had shone since the night of Amara's exile. The villagers whispered that the heavens had turned their backs on Yoria, that the land was cursed because their chief's bloodline had offended the stars. Crops refused to grow, rains came only in black storms and sickness spread like wildfire. Still, Zira's words held power. The curse, she told them, came through the girl who defied the spirits. Until her name is forgotten, the stars will not return. Each word was poison and it worked. The villagers feared to speak Amara's name, yet in the silence of night, when they looked at the dead sky, guilt burned quietly in their hearts. Amara watched all of this unseen, her cloak drawn tight as she wandered the market square. Her heart ached to see the faces of her people, weary, hopeless, dim. She longed to call out to them to reveal herself, but the voice of the Mother of Stars whispered in her mind, "Not yet. The stars do not reveal themselves until the night is ready." So she waited. One evening, as dusk bled into a darker shade of black, she heard the cry of a child. Following the sound, she found a small hut at the edge of the village. Inside lay a boy, his skin pale, his breath shallow, his mother weeping beside him. The villagers had already given up hope. Without a word, Amara stepped inside. The mother looked up in fear, clutching her child. "Who are you?" she asked. "A traveler," Amara said softly, kneeling by the boy's side. She placed her palm upon his chest. For a moment nothing happened. Then, faintly, her skin began to glow, soft, silver light pulsing from within. The glow spread from her hand into the boy's body, lighting his skin like morning sunlight through leaves. Gasps filled the room. The boy coughed once, twice, then his eyes opened, bright and alive. His mother fell to her knees in tears, whispering blessings. Amara only smiled gently. "The stars remember us," she said. "They never truly leave." By morning word had spread through the kingdom. They called her the healer of the night, a stranger whose touch shone like the heavens, who could bring back life where death had settled. The villagers began to seek her out, bringing their sick, their broken, their hopeless. She healed without asking for coin or name, vanishing before dawn. Zira's spies reported these miracles to her, and rage burned in the queen's heart. She sensed the truth buried beneath the whispers. The power she thought she had destroyed had returned, cloaked in starlight. As for Amara, she moved through her homeland like a ghost of mercy, her light growing stronger with every soul she saved. Yet each night, when she looked at the sky, it remained empty. She knew what it meant. The stars were waiting for her to finish what had begun, to confront the shadow that had swallowed Nuria's heart. And when the time came, she would rise not as Amara the daughter of Okoro, but as Amara the starborn, the one who carried the heavens within her. "You said." In the heart of Nuria's palace, where torches burned dim and incense smoke coiled like black serpents, Queen Zira sat before her mirror of bone and obsidian. The reflection staring back at her was not her own. Her eyes, once striking and proud, now flickered with unease. Her beauty remained, but it had sharpened into something cruel, fragile as glass. The whispers that once obeyed her now lingered in corners, afraid to answer. The tales of the glowing healer had reached her like daggers. A woman who shone under the moonlight, whose touch brought life, whose words comforted the dying. Every description was a reminder of the one she had buried in darkness, Amara. Zira's hands trembled as she brushed her hair before the mirror. "It cannot be her," she whispered. "I ended her light. I watched the cave swallow her whole." But even as she spoke, the shadows in the room stirred as though mocking her disbelief. "Spirits of the eclipse," she called, voice low but laced with fear, "come forth. I demand your counsel." The air thickened. The mirror's surface rippled like water disturbed. From within, eyes opened, many eyes, burning gold and violet. The voices that emerged were layered and ancient, their tones neither male nor female. "Queen Zira," they hissed. "You summon us again, though your debt is yet unpaid." "I care not for debts," she snapped. "There is a light rising in this land, a healer whose glow weakens my power. I know who she is. I know what she was. You must extinguish her light before it consumes me." The voices hummed like wind through graves. Then a single answer came. "No darkness can swallow its mother." Zira froze. "What do you mean?" "She was born of the stars," they intoned, their faces forming and dissolving in the glass. "Her light is the womb from which night itself was made. You cannot unmake what birthed your power. The heavens have reclaimed what was theirs." "Lies!" Zira screamed, shattering the mirror with a furious blow. The shards fell like rain, each piece still glimmering faintly, whispering the same words, "You cannot unmake what birthed you." She stumbled back, chest heaving. Fear clawed at her throat. She could feel her hold over Okoro fading, her magic weakening. The stars, long dead above Nuria, had begun to flicker faintly, like eyes slowly opening. The people whispered that the curse was lifting. "No," she hissed. "It cannot be undone. I gave this kingdom to the shadows, and the shadows will keep it." In desperation, Zira turned to her altar, a twisted creation of bones, feathers, and obsidian stone. Upon it rested the relic of her old coven, the black sun pendant, symbol of the eclipse spirit, the most feared of all celestial entities. Once, her mother had warned her never to call upon it, for the eclipse devours what it is given and never returns it. But Zira no longer feared warnings. Power was slipping from her hands like sand, and she would not watch her throne fade into starlight. She began to chant, voice shaking but determined. "Spirit of the shadow sun, I summon thee. Come forth and bind thy will to mine." The room darkened instantly. Flames turned blue, then died, leaving only the cold shimmer of the pendant's light. The ground quaked beneath her knees as black smoke coiled upward, forming the shape of a vast figure, neither solid nor ghost but the void between. Its voice was silence, yet its presence roared through her bones. "What do you offer?" it asked, though the words echoed from inside her own skull. Zira's lips trembled. Her gaze flicked to the adjoining chamber, where Okoro lay sleeping, frail and unaware. The years of her manipulation had broken him. He no longer ruled, he merely existed. "I offer his life," she whispered. "The blood of the chief in exchange for the death of the starborn." The figure stilled. Then the chamber filled with a low hum, a sound like the earth itself groaning. The eclipse spirit accepted. Dark tendrils slithered from its form, encircling Zira's arms, searing her flesh with cold fire. The shadows reached toward Okoro's room, and for a heartbeat she hesitated. There had been a time when his touch had softened her, when she had believed herself capable of love. But that time was gone. "Take him," she said. A gust of wind shattered the windows, and the torches reignited with black flame. The air smelled of iron and storm. Zira rose, her eyes now hollow, her soul bound to something vast and merciless. But as the first drop of Okoro's life was claimed by the void, the castle trembled, not with darkness but light. Outside the sky stirred. The villagers looked upward as faint silver pinpricks pierced the black. One, then two, then dozens more. The stars had returned. Zira froze mid-chant, eyes wide with horror. The eclipse spirit recoiled, its smoke writhing like a wounded beast. "The heavens awaken," it hissed. "She comes." Far beyond the palace walls, at the edge of the forest, Amara lifted her gaze. The blade of truth shimmered in her hand, and the light from the newborn stars traced her path like fire through the dark. The time of judgment had begun. The night over Nuria tore itself open. Lightning without thunder arched across the heavens, illuminating the kingdom that had forgotten what true light looked like. The stars, reborn and defiant, shimmered above in perfect alignment, forming the celestial path that guided Amara home. She walked through the storm, the wind bending around her form as though it feared to touch her. Every droplet of rain that fell turned into glimmering dust upon her skin. Her eyes burned like twin galaxies, calm yet boundless, merciful yet unyielding. In her hand gleamed the blade of truth, its light cutting through the shadows that tried to gather around her feet. When she reached the palace courtyard, the doors burst open. A torrent of black smoke poured out, twisting and coiling into serpents of living shadow. From within emerged Zira, cloaked in darkness, her gown flowing like liquid night. Her beauty was still there, but beneath it pulsed something monstrous, a hollow vessel filled with greed and fear. "So," Zira said, her voice echoing unnaturally, layered with the whispers of spirits bound to her. "The prodigal daughter returns, reborn in the light she claims to serve." Amara stepped forward, unshaken. "You fed my father lies," she said, her voice steady. "You poisoned the kingdom with your envy. You stole the stars from our people, but even in the cave they whispered your defeat." The wind howled between them, carrying sparks of silver and black. Zira's laugh was low, sharp, and hollow. "You think you can undo what has been done? You are nothing but a scar of the past, an echo of pity. I am the Queen of Shadows, the rightful keeper of the eclipse." The sky rumbled as lightning danced across the clouds. "Then let the heavens judge which of us was chosen," Amara said, raising her blade. The clash began not with a strike, but with a pulse of energy, light and darkness colliding in a blinding surge. The courtyard cracked beneath their feet. Statues crumbled, banners turned to ash. Amara's blade sang as it met Zira's conjured weapon, a dagger woven from solid shadow. Each blow sent ripples of power through the air, like thunder exploding from the earth. But the battle was more than physical. As they fought, visions flickered between them, memories both shared and hidden. Amara saw her father holding her as a child, teaching her the constellations. Zira saw the day she had first been chosen by the spirits of the eclipse, her heart twisted by a promise of power. "You were loved, Zira," Amara cried, her blade glowing brighter. "You could have ruled beside him, brought peace to this land. But you chose hunger over love." "Love?" Zira spat, her eyes wild. "Love made me weak. It made me watch as your beauty, your laughter, your father's pride, all that should have been mine, slipped through my fingers. I will not fade as I was meant to. I will be eternal." She lunged, her shadowed dagger slicing the air, but as it neared Amara's chest, the darkness recoiled as if burned. The light around Amara pulsed outward in waves, and from the heavens the stars flared, not as distant lights, but as witnesses. Around them, ghostly figures began to appear, the spirits of Nuria's ancestors, clothed in ancient robes of light. Their faces were solemn, their eyes infinite. They watched in silence as the two women stood locked in their struggle, reflections of the eternal war between truth and deceit. Amara's voice deepened, resonating like thunder across the world. "You cast me into darkness, but darkness was my mother's womb. You thought you buried me, Zira, but you only returned me to where I began." Her words struck harder than any blade. The very shadows around Zira trembled, uncertain of their loyalty. The dagger in her hand flickered, its shape faltering. "No," Zira gasped. "You cannot take this from me." She drew power from the eclipse spirit one last time, her body glowing with sickly light as veins of black fire ran beneath her skin. But as she raised her hand, something within her cracked. The mark on her chest, the dark star that had fueled her magic, began to fade, shrinking and dulling. "Why?" she whispered, eyes wide with panic. Amara lowered her blade. "Because corruption cannot hold a star's light. Even shadows need truth to exist." Zira screamed as the power that once protected her turned inward. Her shadows twisted violently, then shattered like glass struck by sunlight. She fell to her knees, her strength bleeding into the ground. In that moment, the chamber doors burst open. Chief Okoro stumbled out, weak but awake, the haze of enchantment lifting from his eyes. He looked upon the two women, the daughter radiant as dawn, the wife trembling in ruin, and a cry tore from his chest. "What have I done?" he whispered, falling to his knees. Amara turned to him, her glow softening. "Father, the darkness is not yours to bear alone. It was fed by deceit, but now the truth will heal." Okoro wept as the first drop of rain fell between them, silver and pure. Above, the stars burned brighter, their light piercing the last remnants of the eclipse. The battle was over, but the reckoning had only just begun. The night after Zira's fall was unlike any other in Emberhall's history. The air was clear, sweet with the scent of rain and new beginnings. The stars, once dim and distant, shone like living hearts in the sky. Amara stood in the palace courtyard, her glow no longer fierce and blinding but warm and gentle, like the first rays of dawn. Around her, the people gathered in silence, unsure if they were witnessing a dream or a miracle. Then came the light. It spread from Amara's fingertips, flowing like a river of gold through the palace stones, out into the streets and across the hills. The land, long wounded by curses and neglect, began to heal. Cracked soil turned soft and fertile again. The once dry rivers awoke, their waters glittering as they carved their way through the heart of the kingdom. Trees unfurled emerald leaves, and flowers bloomed as if the earth itself were exhaling after a long sorrow. Villagers cried out in joy, falling to their knees. The darkness that had lingered in their hearts, the fear, the suspicion, the grief, seemed to melt away beneath the light. And for the first time in generations, Ember Hall felt whole. Children were born beneath the shining constellations that now adorned the heavens like crowns. Their parents called them the Starborn, believing these new souls carried fragments of Amara's light within them. Even the animals seemed renewed, birds sang brighter songs, and the rivers carried reflections of the night sky so clear they seemed like portals to heaven itself. But Amara did not claim a throne. She had seen what power did to hearts that forgot their own humanity. Instead, she gathered her people in the great courtyard one evening and spoke softly, her voice carrying across the crowd like a melody. "My mother was Shadow," she said, gazing at the horizon. "And my father was Dawn. From their balance I was born. Light and dark are not enemies, they are halves of one truth. Without the night, the stars would have no home. Without light, the stars would have no meaning." The people listened, some weeping openly. They understood then that Amara was not simply a savior but a teacher. One who had learned through suffering that balance, not victory, was the path to peace. Under her guidance, the kingdom built a shrine upon the hill where the celestial court had once appeared. They named it the Path of the Starborn. Its stones were carved with spirals representing both light and shadow intertwined, eternal and inseparable. Those who had lost loved ones, faith or purpose came there to meditate, to listen to the wind, and to seek wisdom in the stars. Amara often visited the shrine at dusk. She would walk barefoot along the stone paths, her feet dusted with starlight, and speak with the people who came to her. Farmers, widows, orphans, even former servants of Zira who sought forgiveness. To each she offered not judgment, but kindness. She told them, "The stars do not ask where you've been. They only ask if you are ready to shine again." Nights in Ember Hall became sacred. The people began lighting small lanterns outside their homes, not to chase away the dark, but to honor it. They told their children, "We light these not because we fear the night, but because the stars taught us to love it." Songs of gratitude replaced laments, and laughter once again filled the markets. Sometimes, when the moon was high, Amara would join the villagers in their feasts, sitting among them rather than above them. She would laugh, her voice echoing like soft bells through the fields, and the people would swear the stars flickered brighter when she smiled. She never crowned herself queen again, yet all of Ember Hall called her the Heart of the Dawn. Under her watch, the kingdom learned not only to rebuild but to remember, that every light casts a shadow, and every shadow carries the seed of light. And when the children of the Starborn asked her where the stars came from, she would smile, look up to the heavens and say, "From every soul that learns to forgive, and from every dawn that follows darkness." That night, as her laughter mingled with the hum of the wind, the stars above shimmered in unison, as if bowing to their daughter. And for generations to come, Ember Hall would live in the harmony she had restored, forever balanced between the night that once broke them and the dawn that made them whole.